She walked into the building her father had guarded for 20 years, hoping for a job, but not expecting the laughter, the insults, or the CEO's crisis that would change everything. Raya Dean was the security guard's daughter. No degree, no connections, just a worn resume, a borrowed blazer, and a mind that noticed what others missed. By the end of the day, she wouldn't just prove she belonged. She'd save the company. Raya Dean stood in front of the tall glass building, her hands sweating and her stomach tight. She wore her mother's old gray blazer and a pair of black flats that had seen better days. In her hand was a folder with a printed resume she had made at the public library the night before. This wasn't just any building. The company was called Next Rise Technologies, a big name in software and finance. It was the kind of place people dreamed of working. Raya had dreamed of it too, ever since she was a little girl waiting for her father to finish his shift as the night security guard. He had worked here for over 20 years. He never complained. He just smiled and said, "One day you'll walk through those doors for your own future, not mine." Now she was here. She took a deep breath and stepped through the shiny glass doors. The lobby was bright, modern, and filled with people in fancy suits. Raya felt small, but she held her head high. She walked to the front desk. "Good morning," she said kindly. "I have a 10 a.m. interview for the data assistant position." The receptionist barely looked up. "Name?" "Raya Dean." There was a pause, then a laugh. "Wait, Dean, as in Greg Dean, the security guard?" Raya blinked, trying to keep her smile steady. "Yes, that's my father." The woman's voice turned sugary and cruel. "Oh, sweetie, I think you're lost. This is a tech company, not career day." Before Raya could reply, 2 security officers walked over. She felt the air shift. The receptionist leaned in. "You really don't belong here." But before they could escort her out, a loud voice exploded from the hallway behind them. "Where is someone who actually understands these reports?" Silence fell. Everyone turned. A man in a tailored navy suit stormed into the lobby, holding a thick file and looking furious. It was Mr. Ethan Cross, the CEO himself. Raya took one shaky breath and stepped forward. Raya's voice was soft, but it cut through the silence like a spark in dry grass. "I can try." Heads turned. The receptionist froze mid-smirk. One of the security guards stepped back in surprise. Ethan Cross narrowed his eyes. "You?" he asked, clearly puzzled. "Who are you?" "Raya Dean," she said, her voice steady now. "I came for an interview today, but it sounds like you have a bigger problem." The CEO tilted his head, studying her. "You think you can solve what my senior analysts couldn't? People with master's degrees and 10 years of experience?" Raya nodded. Her hands were trembling, but her heart was steady. "I've spent years learning about this company. My dad is your night security guard. While he worked, I read your public reports, studied your charts, followed your press releases. I know more than I look like I do." The CEO blinked, clearly unsure what to make of her. Around them, whispers grew louder. Raya stepped forward. "Just give me 5 minutes. If I'm wrong, I'll walk out, but if I'm right, let me stay." A moment passed. Then Mr. Cross handed her the report. "You have 5 minutes," he said. "There's a meeting room over there. Show me what you've got." Raya nodded, took the file, and walked to the glass meeting room. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hardly hear anything else. She opened the folder and started reading fast but carefully. She took out a pen from her bag and started scribbling on a napkin. She saw it, a small mistake in a formula, a missing number that caused everything else to go wrong. She recognized the pattern because she'd practiced with similar problems at home. 4 minutes later, she walked out. "I found the problem," she said, holding out the marked report. "It's here. One of your supply contracts expired last quarter, but your system still included it. That's why the projections are off." Mr. Cross frowned and took the paper. He called his assistant over. "Check this." The assistant looked at the notes, then the original file. His eyes widened. "She's right." Silence. Mr. Cross looked at her, no longer with doubt, but with something new. Respect. "What did you say your name was again?" he asked. "Raya Dean," she said quietly. He nodded. "Come with me." Raya followed Mr. Ethan Cross through a hallway lined with glass offices. Every step felt surreal. Just minutes ago, she was being laughed at for her name. Now the CEO himself was leading her to the top floor. Her heart pounded as they stepped into a large modern conference room. Screens covered the walls. Charts and numbers flashed across them. A long table sat in the center, with leather chairs and folders neatly arranged. Mr. Cross turned to her. "Sit." Raya took a seat, her fingers still shaking slightly as she placed the folder on the table. He leaned against the table, arms crossed. "How did you see that error so fast? My analysts spent all night on it." Raya sat up straighter. "I've been studying your reports for 2 years. I download them from your website. I go over them at night with a calculator and an old notebook. My dad, he would bring me leftover printed pages sometimes. I read everything I could." He stared at her, trying to make sense of it. "But why? Why go through all that trouble?" "Because I've always wanted to be part of something bigger," she said. "And because I believed I could." Mr. Cross was silent for a moment. Then he walked to the window and looked out over the city skyline. "You fixed something my senior team couldn't. You caught a detail that could have cost us millions in front of the board." He turned back to her. "What else do you know?" Raya hesitated. "I know your new software rollout last quarter underperformed. The reports made it look fine, but customer feedback says otherwise. There's a disconnect." His eyebrows raised. "You've read those too?" "I read everything," she said softly. There was a knock on the door. The head of data operations entered. Mr. Selman, a man in his late 40s with sharp glasses and an expensive watch. He looked surprised to see Raya. "Is this the person who found the error?" he asked. Mr. Cross nodded. "Yes, Raya Dean, security guard's daughter. But today she's the smartest person in this building." Raya's cheeks flushed, but she held her head high. Mr. Selman frowned slightly. "We already have candidates lined up." "We're not doing interviews anymore," Mr. Cross said firmly. "I've seen enough." He looked at Raya. "You want a real chance? You'll get it, starting now. Before we continue Raya's incredible journey, if you believe that brilliance doesn't always wear a suit, and that determination, not privilege, is what truly earns a seat at the table, then please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep telling stories that prove greatness can rise from anywhere. And now, let's return to Raya's story, where her quiet strength is about to change everything. The next morning, Raya returned to NextRise Technologies, not as a job hopeful, but as the new leader of a special task team on data accuracy. She wore the same blazer, freshly ironed this time, and a new pair of shoes her father had saved up to buy the night before. Her resume was no longer in a folder. Her name was now on the meeting invite. When she walked into the building, the same receptionist looked up, eyes wide. She didn't say anything this time. She just stared. Raya smiled kindly. "Good morning." The elevator took her to the 17th floor, an area usually reserved for directors and department heads. As the doors opened, she saw Mr. Cross waiting with a small group of people. "Raya," he said, "let me introduce your team." She recognized some of the faces, analysts, finance leads, and even the man whose mistake she had corrected. Their eyes held doubt. One of them barely offered a nod. Another whispered something under his breath. Mr. Cross continued anyway. "You all know why we're here. Raya caught a critical error and saved us from a major loss. She will lead this team on a special project to improve our data accuracy systems. Learn from her. Work with her. That's not a request." With that, he left the room. Raya stood alone in front of a whiteboard. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "I know I don't look like someone who usually stands in this room. I know many of you think I don't belong, but I'm not here to take your place. I'm here to help." One man rolled his eyes, another tapped his pen impatiently. "Still," Raya continued, "I've studied your systems for years. I've mapped the way data flows from your contracts to your financials. I've found small things, tiny errors, that grow into bigger problems. I'd like to show you a new model I built. It's simple, but I believe it works." She turned to the board and began drawing. Her hands moved with confidence now. Her voice grew stronger as she explained. Slowly, the room got quiet. The tapping stopped. The smirks faded. And when she finished, one of the analysts raised his hand. "Can you show that part again?" he asked. Raya nodded, a small smile forming. Bit by bit, respect was growing. Not because of her title, but because of her work. By the end of her first full day, Raya had done more than just prove she belonged. She had earned the team's attention. Her model was simple but sharp. It focused on fixing how the company tracked supply chain costs, using live data from contracts, not just outdated monthly reports. She explained how one small misstep, like an expired contract, could ripple through everything and lead to poor decisions. Some still doubted her. Others stayed quiet. But two of the analysts leaned in, curious. "How did you learn to think like this?" one finally asked. Raya shrugged. "By watching, by reading, by fixing things at home when we couldn't afford to hire anyone. Problems are the same, whether it's a broken faucet or a broken formula. You just have to look close enough." Later that afternoon, Mr. Selman, the senior data director, walked into the room. He scanned the whiteboard, then looked at her. "So this is the new system?" "Yes," Raya replied. "It's not complete, but it solves the delay problem and it catches errors early." He crossed his arms. "I still don't know why Cross chose you." Raya stood calmly. "Because I saw what others missed." He didn't smile, but he nodded slightly. "Let's see how you handle real pressure." He handed her a flash drive. "This is tomorrow's investor forecast report. There's something wrong with it, we don't know what. Fix it by morning." Raya took it without hesitation. "I will." That evening, while the others packed up and went home, Raya stayed behind. The office lights dimmed, but she stayed by the window, laptop open, numbers flying across her screen. Her father called to check on her. "Are they treating you well?" he asked gently. "They were unsure," she said honestly. "But I think I'm changing that." He was quiet for a moment. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone." "I know," Raya said, "but I want to, for me." As the clock hit midnight, Raya finally found the issue in the report. An outdated pricing formula copied from last year. A mistake so small, yet powerful enough to affect millions. She smiled to herself and whispered, "Got you." The next morning, the office buzzed with its usual rhythm. Coffee cups clinking, keyboards tapping, and quiet conversations filling the halls. But on the 17th floor, something was different. Everyone was waiting to hear if Raya had solved the forecast report. When she walked in, eyes tired but focused, her team was already seated. Mr. Selman stood by the screen at the front of the room. The CEO, Ethan Cross, had also joined, arms folded, eyes sharp. "Well?" Selman asked. Raya stepped forward with her flash drive and plugged it in. Charts appeared on the screen. "I found the problem," she began. "Last year's pricing formula was reused by mistake. That caused the projected profit margin to jump by nearly 9%. But it's false. If you don't correct it, your investors will think the company is doing better than it really is." She clicked again, showing the corrected graph. The room fell silent. Ethan Cross nodded slowly. "Can you show me where the formula was reused?" Raya walked him through the spreadsheet, line by line. She spoke clearly, answering questions without flinching. Even Selman, who had doubted her from day one, followed her with growing interest. When she finished, the CEO looked around the room. "Anyone disagree with her findings?" No one spoke. Then one of the finance team members said quietly, "She's right. That error would have caused a serious problem." Mr. Cross turned to Selman. "She fixed it again." Selman sighed, then nodded. She did. Raya looked around at the faces that had once doubted her. Something had changed. There were no more eye rolls, no more whispers, only quiet respect. After the meeting, one of the analysts approached her. "I just wanted to say you're really good," he admitted. "Better than I expected." Raya smiled. "Thanks, I just love solving problems." That afternoon, her team gathered to plan their next task. For the first time, they didn't see her as just the security guard's daughter. They saw her as a leader. 3 days later, Raya was deep in work with her team when Mr. Cross's assistant entered the room. "Raya," she said, "Mr. Cross would like you to present your findings to the board tomorrow." The entire room froze. Raya blinked. "The board, as in the board of directors?" The assistant nodded. "Yes, the CEO wants them to hear directly from you." As she left, the room remained silent. Then someone finally spoke. "Do you know what that means?" Raya nodded slowly. It means I have one night to get everything perfect. The board at Next Rise wasn't just a group of managers. They were powerful investors, top-level executives, and people who rarely had time for junior staff, let alone someone without a degree. If they didn't like what they heard, Mr. Cross could face pushback. That night, Raya stayed late again. She reviewed every graph, every number, every word. She practiced in front of a mirror, writing notes on sticky paper and whispering lines under her breath. Her father called around 9 p.m. "You're still at work?" he asked. "I have to speak to the board tomorrow," she said. There was a pause. "You've already made me proud," he said, "but don't forget, no matter how high you go, stay kind, stay strong, and stay you." "I will, Dad," she whispered, wiping her eyes. The next morning, Raya wore her neatest clothes and carried herself with quiet strength. As she stood outside the boardroom, she heard her name being introduced. The doors opened. Inside sat 12 serious-looking people, dressed in expensive suits, staring with blank faces. Mr. Cross stood at the front. "This is Raya Dean," he said. "She found and fixed the error in last week's forecast, and now she's going to explain how to stop it from happening again." Raya stepped forward, her hands slightly shaking. But when she looked up, she didn't see the board. She saw the long nights, her father's tired smile, and the little girl who used to wait in the lobby. She took a breath. And she began. Raya clicked the remote. A large screen behind her lit up with her first slide, a clean, simple chart comparing the original forecast with her corrected version. "Good morning," she said, her voice clear. "What I'll show you today is how a small mistake nearly led to a large misunderstanding, and how we can fix the system so it doesn't happen again." Some board members raised their eyebrows. Others leaned back, arms crossed. Raya pressed on. She explained how the wrong formula was copied from last year. She showed how a single outdated contract had caused the profit margins to appear better than they truly were. Then, she revealed her proposed solution. A real-time check system that would alert the company anytime a variable in the spreadsheet didn't match current contracts. "I know I'm not what you expected," she said calmly. "I didn't go to college, I didn't study finance in a big school, but I've studied this company for years. I grew up in this building. My dad is your night security guard. He's worked here since I was 7. The boardroom grew quiet. I used to sit in the lobby and wait for him. And while I waited, I watched, I listened, I learned. One board member, a silver-haired woman with a sharp voice, leaned forward. "So you're saying you taught yourself to do all this?" "Yes," Raya said softly. "With library books, free online classes, and your company's public reports. I didn't have a classroom, but I had determination." Mr. Cross stood. "She's solved 2 major problems this week. Problems our trained teams missed." There was a pause. Then the chairman of the board finally spoke. "She may not have a degree," he said, "but she has something better, proof." Raya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The board began to nod. And in that moment, she knew everything had changed. After the board meeting, Raya stepped out of the room, her heart still racing. Her palms were sweaty, but her back was straight. She had done it. Mr. Cross caught up with her in the hallway. "You were brilliant," he said. "Thank you," Raya replied, still trying to believe it all was real. "The board was impressed," he continued. "They approved your system, and they approved something else, too." She looked at him unsure. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "We're starting a new division, focused only on data, truth, and system accuracy. And I want you to lead it." Raya froze. "Lead a division?" "Yes, it'll start small, a few people, but you'll build it. Train them, guide them." "I don't even have a title yet," she said, almost laughing. "You do now," Mr. Cross said. "Head of Accuracy and Insights." Raya blinked, stunned. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept." She nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "Yes, yes, I accept." That afternoon, when she returned to the 17th floor, everything felt different. People who once avoided her now said hello. Some nodded in quiet respect. A few even clapped when she passed. Back at her desk, she found a sticky note from the team. "Congrats, boss, you earned it." She smiled. Later that evening, she met her father outside the building. He stood in his uniform, holding a small lunch bag and a proud smile. "How was it?" he asked. Raya handed him a printed card with her new title. He read it slowly, then looked up at her with wide eyes. Head of Accuracy and Insights. I guess I'm official now, she said. Her father's eyes filled with emotion. I always knew. I just waited for them to see it too. They hugged on the sidewalk as the building lights glowed behind them. 1 week later, Raya sat at the head of a small meeting table inside her new office. The glass walls, once a symbol of power and distance, now reflected her own name on the door. Raya Dean, Head of Accuracy and Insights. Her team had already begun testing the new real-time data checking system. Early results were promising. Errors dropped by 40% in just 5 days. Analysts who once doubted her were now asking for her opinion, listening closely when she spoke. But it wasn't the title or the praise that made Raya proud. It was the feeling of belonging. She had earned her place not by pretending to be someone else, but by being fully herself. The same girl who used to wait quietly in the lobby now walked the halls with purpose. That Friday morning, a company-wide email went out from Mr. Cross. It read, "Meet the woman who saved NextRise from $1 million mistake." She came to us without a degree, without connections, and without permission to dream big. But she dreamed anyway, and that dream changed all of us. The email ended with a single sentence. Let's build a company that sees value not just in resumes, but in people. That afternoon, Raya was invited to speak at a company town hall. More than 200 employees filled the room. When she took the stage, applause filled the space. She smiled nervously and spoke into the mic. I used to sit in your lobby and wonder if I'd ever get a chance, she said. I didn't have much, but I had eyes that paid attention and a heart that didn't give up. She paused. I'm still learning, and I'll keep learning, but now I do it from a seat at the table, one that I didn't wait to be given. I built it. The room went silent for a moment. Then the clapping started, loud, strong, and real. That night, as Raya walked home with her father, she looked back at the glowing NextRise sign one more time. I don't feel like I'm just visiting anymore, she said. Her father smiled. That's because you're not, he replied. You're home. The end. If this story touched you, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe for more heartfelt tales.